What if everything you learned about history is a lie? In this video, we'll look at 15 ancient discoveries that archaeologists still can't explain. From the sunken cathedrals of Ethiopia to megaliths shaped with absolute precision to objects that defy the official timeline, these finds challenge everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. Let's begin this list with number 15. Bandiagara Escarpment. This place is not just a bunch of old ruins sitting in the hot desert. The Bandiagara Escarpment in Mali is a huge wall of stone stretching across West Africa, and built into those cliffs are entire villages hanging hundreds of feet above the ground. There are homes, burial chambers, storage rooms, and pathways that were placed directly into the rock in locations. So, how did they reach here? We mean it still looks impossible to climb today. The people believed to have built them were known as the Telem, a civilization that vanished long before historians could properly understand who they really were. Even the name Telem was not theirs. It came later from the Dogon people who settled near the cliffs centuries afterward. It simply means the people who were here before us. What makes the mystery so mind-boggling is the height of the structures. There were no ropes or tools ever discovered, or even a clear explanation. The Dogon people believed the Telem could fly, and honestly, looking at those cliffs, you start understanding why. Number 14. The stone that shouldn't exist. In 1889, workers clearing land near a dry basin in Awelos uncovered something unusual buried beneath compact soil. A pickaxe struck a smooth surface hidden underground. At first, it appeared to be an ordinary stone. But once it was lifted into the light, the workers immediately realized it was totally different and rare. Etched into the surface was a humanoid figure, with a long head, oversized almond-shaped eyes, a narrow body, and thin limbs formed with remarkable detail. The image did not look like local indigenous carvings or colonial artwork from the region. Instead, it looked strangely familiar in a way nobody could easily explain. The artifact later became known as the Awelos Stone, which is a pretty insane name. Skeptics dismissed it as a crude fake, but closer examination showed balanced proportions and carefully made lines, proving the figure was intentional. What makes the discovery super disturbing to believe is the timing. If authentic, the carving predates modern alien mythology, science fiction imagery, and the famous gray alien appearance by decades. So what inspired the person who created it? Number 13. Pressurized aqueducts of Palenque. For years, archaeologists studying the Maya city of Palenque focused mostly on temples, carvings, and royal history. Then, researchers started looking underground and realized the real mystery had been hidden beneath their feet the entire time. Palenque sat in a region hammered by constant rain flowing down from nearby mountains. Historians originally assumed the Maya built ordinary drainage channels to move floodwater away from the city. What they discovered instead was something far more advanced. One underground system called the Piedras Bolas Aqueduct was designed to create water pressure. The stone tunnel starts wide near the spring above the city, then gradually narrows as the water travels downhill. That design forced the water into a tighter space, building enough pressure to shoot it upward like a fountain. The builders had to calculate tunnel width, slope, water volume, and pressure, while sealing stone joints tightly enough to stop the system from bursting apart. The strangest part is that the Maya developed this kind of hydraulic engineering centuries before European contact, deep inside the jungle, completely isolated from Rome or Greece. So, the question is, how did they build it? Number 12. Scorched Citadel of La Quemada. Nothing about the land around La Quemada feels welcoming. The valleys of northern Mexico are dry, rocky, and hot. Strong winds move across cracked desert ground, where surviving even a few days without supplies would be difficult. Yet sitting above that harsh terrain are the burned remains of a massive stone fortress. The ruins include pyramids, defensive walls, raised roads, plazas, and huge columned halls built from heavy stone blocks. Creating something this large required enormous organization, skilled labor, timber, food, and water in a region historians once believed was occupied mainly by nomadic groups. Then, archaeologists found evidence showing the city ended violently. Human bones were found scattered across plazas and buildings instead of being buried properly. Many carried signs of trauma, fractures, and cut marks suggesting chaos and bloodshed rather than ceremony. The stone walls themselves still carry thick black scorch marks left by an enormous fire powerful enough to collapse roofs and destroy major sections of the fortress. Nobody knows who built La Quemada or who wiped it out. Number 11. Sakwala Chakraya. Hidden inside the ancient ruins of Anuradhapura in Sri Lanka is a strange circular carving that has confused historians for decades. Local people call it the Sakwala Chakraya, and even today no one can fully agree on what it actually means. It just looks like another ancient design scratched into stone, at first sight. But once you really look at it, the details become hard to ignore. The carving stretches nearly 2 meters across and is filled with rings, symbols, shapes, and carefully divided sections arranged with surprising precision. We mean there is not a single thing about it that feels random. It almost looks like some kind of diagram rather than traditional artwork. That is where the mystery begins. Ancient Buddhist carvings usually tell stories or show religious figures, but this one feels completely different. Some researchers believe it represents Buddhist cosmology and the structure of the universe, but others think it resembles planetary systems or astronomical charts far beyond the knowledge people supposedly had at the time. Whatever its true purpose was, the meaning behind it is lost with the people who created it. Number 10. Lalibela's sunken cathedrals. Most ancient churches were built piece by piece above the ground. Lalibela feels completely different. In the mountains of Ethiopia, workers carved entire cathedrals downward into solid volcanic rock until huge stone buildings appeared hidden beneath the surface itself. You can walk across the rocky ground without realizing anything is there. Then suddenly the earth opens into deep trenches, revealing giant churches below your feet, complete with windows, pillars, stairways, tunnels, and detailed interiors, all carved from a single block of stone. King Lalibela ordered the project during the 12th century to create a new Jerusalem for Christian pilgrims. But the scale of the construction still confuses engineers today. Every room, hallway, pillar, and ceiling had to be planned perfectly before workers removed the first layer of rock because one major crack could ruin an entire structure. The builders also somehow hauled thousands of tons of volcanic stone out of narrow pits using primitive hand tools while designing drainage systems capable of protecting the underground churches from seasonal flooding and collapse. Number 9. Ancient Egyptian meteorite beads. People have been wearing beads for thousands of years, long before written history ever existed. Almost every ancient culture made them in one form or another using shells, stone, bone, or clay, but a set of beads discovered in Egypt carries a detail that completely changes the story. They were not made from ordinary metal taken from the earth. They were made from a meteorite. These beads are around 5,000 years old, which means they existed long before Egypt officially entered the Iron Age. Instead of smelting iron from ore, ancient craftsmen shaped meteoritic iron into thin sheets, rolled them into tiny tubes, and carefully polished them before stringing them beside gold and precious stones. That alone is remarkable because meteoritic iron is difficult to work with. It is brittle, unpredictable, and much harder to shape than copper. Yet the beads were crafted with surprising precision. What really stands out is that the Egyptians clearly treated the material as something special. Somehow they understood these strange stones from the sky were rare and valuable long before modern science explained why. Number 8. Ciudad Perdida. In 1972, a group of treasure hunters pushed through the thick jungles of Colombia searching for hidden gold, but what they found was far more rare. Deep inside the Sierra Nevada mountains, hidden beneath centuries of jungle growth, stood the ruins of an ancient city forgotten by the outside world for hundreds of years. Today, the site is known as Ciudad Perdida, the Lost City. Reaching it even now requires days of hiking through dense rainforest, crossing rivers, climbing steep mountain paths, and moving through heat so heavy it feels suffocating. So, it's not easy to get here. But more than 1,000 years ago, the Tairona civilization somehow built a huge city in the middle of that wilderness. Stone terraces were cut directly into the mountainside and connected by massive staircases carved from rock. One staircase alone contains more than 1,200 steps. The city also contained advanced drainage systems powerful enough to survive centuries of tropical rainfall without collapsing. The strangest part is that Spanish conquistadors never found the city. The jungle hid it completely for nearly 400 years. Number 7. Cliff monuments of Naqsh-e-Rostam. The first thing people notice at Naqsh-e-Rostam is the height. Massive tombs are carved directly into the side of a cliff so far above the desert floor that they almost look unreachable. There are no easy paths leading toward them, no giant ramps, just enormous cross-shaped entrances hanging high above the landscape. These tombs belonged to Persian kings like Darius the Great and Xerxes I during the Achaemenid Empire. Historians believe the rulers were buried above the ground because ancient Zoroastrian beliefs treated the earth as sacred and too pure for human remains. That still leaves one huge mystery. How did ancient builders carve massive chambers into a vertical cliff with such insane precision? One mistake could have shattered huge sections of the mountain. Yet the carvings remain sharp and carefully shaped even after thousands of years. Modern crews would use cranes, lasers, and heavy machinery for work like this. Ancient workers managed the same feat using ropes, scaffolding, copper tools, and raw manpower alone. Number 6. Harappa stone and clay tablets. Most people hear the name Harappa and think of ancient ruins, but there are two Harappas in Pakistan. One is a village still filled with homes and everyday life. The other is the shattered remains of an ancient city that once held tens of thousands of people before time reduced it to broken stone and scattered earth. A huge amount of the original site was destroyed during British colonial rule when bricks and stone from the ruins were ripped apart and reused to build the Lahore-Multan Railway. Because of that damage, archaeologists lost countless clues about how the city originally looked and who truly built it. Some researchers believe Harappa was one of the major capitals of the Indus Valley civilization. Others think the oldest layers may belong to an even earlier culture that vanished before recorded history. Parts of the settlement stretch back nearly 6,000 years. The biggest mystery remains the stone and clay tablets covered in strange symbols. The markings resemble the early Indus script, but no one knows the real meaning. Number 5. Long wooden object. In 1992, archaeologists found a long, smooth wooden object at the Roman fort of Vindolanda in northern England. Vindolanda has produced hundreds of fascinating artifacts over the years, but this particular discovery left experts unusually puzzled. For decades, archaeologists avoided directly explaining what they believed the object actually was, or at least they pretended to avoid the subject for the sake of public decency. In 2023, they finally admitted the truth. They had always known exactly what the object was, and it is now displayed in a museum with a far more accurate description beside it. The artifact is clearly phallic in shape, with one end carved to resemble male anatomy. It measures around 7 inches long and has been worn smooth through repeated handling over time. While some historians still argue that it might have been used as a pestle or some kind of luck charm, most researchers now accept a much simpler explanation: a toy used for not-so-good things 2,000 years ago. So, was it really what they say? Number 4. The rock herd of Sliven. At first glance, the cliffs near Sliven in Bulgaria look completely ordinary. Then slowly shapes begin appearing inside the stone. Goats, rams, bulls, other strange figures worn down by centuries of wind and rain. Together they form what researchers now call the rock herd. The carvings stretch across the rock face like a frozen line of animals moving through the landscape. Some images clearly resemble livestock, while others appear to show wild creatures and even aquatic life. That mixture has made the site difficult to explain. A few historians believe the carvings could be connected to early zodiac symbols. Others think ancient herders created them to track animals or mark territory over long periods of time. The different carving styles suggest multiple people may have added to the rock face across generations rather than during one single event. The problem is that almost nothing else survived nearby. And dating ancient rock carvings is also unreliable, leaving researchers unable to say exactly how old the images truly are. Number 3. Los Meadows. Most people grow up hearing the same story. Columbus sailed across the Atlantic in 1492 and discovered the Americas. Simple, clean, easy to remember. The problem is that history turned out to be far more complicated than that. Nearly 500 years before Columbus was even born, Norse explorers had already reached North America. They built homes, repaired ships, lit fires, and stayed long enough to leave behind undeniable evidence of their presence. That evidence was discovered at Los Meadows on the northern tip of Newfoundland, Canada. The site was uncovered in 1960 after Norwegian explorer Helge Ingstad and his archaeologist wife followed clues hidden inside ancient Viking sagas. Buried beneath layers of soil, they found the remains of Norse buildings, workshops, and even a forge where metal had once been worked. Archaeologists also discovered butternuts, a plant that does not grow anywhere near Newfoundland, proving the Vikings traveled even farther south. The strangest part is that the sagas suggest they returned multiple times before suddenly disappearing from the region entirely. Number 2. Assyrian rock crystal vase. Working with rock crystal is difficult even today. One wrong move and the entire piece can crack apart. That is what makes this ancient vase so unusual. It was carved from a single flawless block of crystal with no joints, no added pieces, and no visible repairs. The vase is small, only a few inches tall, yet the craftsmanship is astonishing for an object believed to be nearly 3,000 years old. Historians connect it to the Neo-Assyrian world because similar crystal artifacts were discovered in that region, though none match this level of clarity and precision. Its recorded history only appears around 1960, leaving huge questions about where it was found and who owned it before then. That mystery still fuels debate among historians and collectors. Crystal was one of the hardest materials ancient craftsmen could have chosen, yet someone selected it anyway. The vase is not perfectly symmetrical, but for its age it comes incredibly close. Number 1. Mitchell Hedges' skull. Back in the 1920s, explorers searching through the ruined Maya city of Lubantun in present-day Belize uncovered something that still divides researchers today. It was not gold, pottery, or ancient weapons. Instead, they found a crystal skull carved from a single piece of clear quartz. The object looked disturbingly realistic. Every detail seemed carefully shaped, from the cheekbones and eye sockets to the smooth curve of the cranium. Even the jaw was made as a separate moving piece that fit perfectly into the skull itself. That alone shocked experts because quartz is an extremely hard material that normally requires modern cutting equipment to shape properly. According to the official story, the skull belonged to the ancient Maya civilization. But many researchers questioned whether ancient craftsmen could really create something this precise without advanced tools. Some later argued it may have been a modern forgery sold as an ancient artifact. Yet despite decades of arguments, nobody has ever proven where the skull truly came from. And that mystery still refuses to disappear. If you've enjoyed watching this video, make sure to like it and subscribe. Thanks for joining. We'll see you later.